Did you see the thing about China today?
I read your little article
Yes.
on the Huxleyan.
Check it out. Huxleyan on Substack. Plug it.
Yeah.
Follow
What
us
is
on
a
Twitter.
Huxleyan, by the way?
A Huxleyan? Huxleyan's not a thing. Huxleyan is like it's referring to the works and thoughts and opinions of Aldous Huxley. Now, Aldous Huxley, the reason I picked the name, Aldous Huxley wrote the piece, essay, I guess you would call it. It was an essay called "The Doors to Perception," which was about psychedelics and how psychedelics are a way of seeing the world without having our like evolutionary like tendencies. So like we've developed a way of looking at the world that's not the way we see the world under psychedelics because we need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
But psychedelics, now that we, are humans and we have this like crazy technology and we're at the top, like now we can go back to that. And so we've created this wall through evolution for survival. And so now with psychedelics, you can put a door in that wall and you can open up the door and have a better glimpse as to how the world is, who you are, what everything is, and all that. So the idea of opening the doors of perception, that's where the band The Doors got it too. Jim Morrison picked it from William Blake, and that's where everything originated from, the idea that we need to open the doors of reality and see everything as it is, infinite. So just a little background there.
So did Huxley do DMT?
I don't think he did DMT, but when he did LSD, he did mescaline, he did things like that. This was really one of the cool things about Huxley was when Huxley was on his deathbed, he wrote to his wife, because I don't think he was able to speak. He wrote to his wife, "Give me something micrograms of LSD." He wanted to experience death in the most like profound way.
What
He
year
wanted
did he
to be
die?
60s, 70s.
Okay, well then that would make sense about the LSD.
Well, he wrote the doors of perception in the 50s, like the early 50s. He died. Yeah, he died in 63. So he died before really LSD kind of really became this
Before they banned it, right?
phenomenon. Yeah, it was still legal. Yeah, it didn't become illegal until like the late 60s.
Yeah.
Like it was already a pretty big thing in counterculture society before it even got classified as a Scheduled 1 drug. I think it's Scheduled 1 drug for some reason. But yeah, so on his deathbed, he asked for LSD. He wanted to experience it. So I figured, what a better like idea for looking at the world than Huxley. Taking into account also Blake and Morrison, kind of tying it all together through Huxley. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 Chinese nationals were arrested or indicted by the Department of Justice today. They're in China safely, so they can't be arrested.
Yeah, they can't be
hacking.
extradited.
Right. But there's 2 Malaysian businessmen that are under extradition charges because they were working with those 5 hackers in making profits off of their hacks into the video game industry. I think in the US, France, South Korea, Japan, and Singapore. And
darn, the video game industry. We should have talked about the console wars.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll bring it back.
We should have brought up the console war.
The interesting thing is when I was reading up a lot on what Chinese hackers are doing with these industries, when they say video game industry, they don't really flesh it out. So I don't know what they mean, but I have a feeling it has to do with, because a lot of what they do, besides espionage and spying, is ransomware. which is what, like, it's basically, if I'm not wrong, kind of veering off too much here, it's taking information from someone and then telling the person, like, hey, better pay up before we do something with this.
Yeah, basically they go and it's basically a malware. You you download it on your computer because you're downloading, something you're not supposed to be downloading.
Right.
Yeah, like, something from a trustful source or something like that, or, something illegal. And, it's on your computer, and then it encrypts all your files, and it's like, we'll decrypt your files, and they encrypt your files. You can't even view it. You can't even, take your files and put it on a flash drive, move it to another computer. It's done. Mm-hmm. So they go and say, all right, you got to pay us this amount of money in Bitcoin. Like usually it's $300 or something like that for an individual. I don't know how much it would be for like a business or something like that, but it does happen to businesses. It does happen to government agencies. In fact, it's been happening to government agencies in the past few years a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot of industries, including media, defense, government, transportation, all sorts, gas and energy, things like that are targeted all the time by these Chinese hackers.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you didn't back up your information, backing up your information is very important. I suggest everyone to do that. But if you didn't back it up, you either got to pay the people and pray that, they're going to give you the key to decrypt everything. Or, it's like, well, bye.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that we all know about this kind of idea of a second Cold War. But one of the things that a Cold War entails, and then you're seeing it directly with these hacking methods that the Chinese, government either benefits from or employs. These methods are a threat that affect more than just the United States government. It's people in the United States, it's people around the world, other governments, anybody that's a competitor of China, anybody that sees faults in China. It's starting to become a global surveillance state.
Yeah.
Weaponizing data, tracking everything, able to construct like information maps based on all sorts of information that people can get from open source material, Cle, social media and stuff like that. Things that are not hard to get into. They do break into things like bank statements and stuff like that, job application information and things like that. But mostly all they got to do is just open source material.
All right.
And
well, John,
they're able to map out information about prominent government officials, military officials, celebrities, and the people who are closely related to them, family members. So it's not just targeting General X, it's targeting General X's daughter who's attending Santa Clara, University of Santa Clara, or something like that. Like one of the interesting things that I was reading about Navalny, the Russian opposition leader who got poisoned, going back to Russia. And when I was reading about that, like at the end of the weekend or at the start of this week, they made mention of his daughter who goes to Stanford. And his daughter's, I was just interested. I'm like, oh, what is Putin's biggest opposition's daughter's social media presence like? I bet it's private. No, it's not private. It's all in Russian. I don't read it. But the thing is it's like, it's people like that who are really in danger. And it's those families that are really subject to these threats. Not just being a prominent figure, but somehow connected to it. And it implicates so many different people.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't really call that open source. I'd just call that being stupid with your privacy settings. When I talk about open source, I'm talking about something like Linux. You know about Linux, John?
No, just assume I don't know.
Linux is an operating system. It's usually used for servers. You know, you can also use it for hacking. You know, there's so many distributions of Linux. It's all open source and it's all free. You know, some open source software is, you know, updated regularly. You know, some hasn't been updated in years, in which case you don't really want to use those distributions. But what you were talking about was basically privacy settings. People have a tendency to not private stuff like on Facebook or Instagram. You know, you got a bunch of people, they want to be Instagram stars. Obviously, you're not going to private your Instagram. But, you know, I don't really usually see people putting out too much personal information on Instagram. Now, Facebook, on the other hand, that's probably one of those platforms you want to be private on, because you end up reposting articles, you end up liking stuff like, say, your bank. Say you like Bank of America. You know, someone's going to go and say, that person, he has a Bank of America account, you know. If I really wanted to, I can social engineer Bank of America, get his information, open up a credit card account, buy a bunch of shit, and, you know, I don't even have to worry about it.
This is making me very uneasy.
Yeah, you got to be careful about what's public and what's private.
I don't think I'm uneasy because I think I'm in danger, but it's just the idea that something so little, that something seems so trivial to someone who's just scrolling through social media. This idea that I will have this information, it doesn't need to be private. Like, just like a little carelessness can open up a wound that is like unhealable.
Yeah. I was talking to someone in my cybersecurity group, and basically he was talking about how these a whole bunch of cybersecurity professionals, they're so on edge about everything, they won't even make their a LinkedIn, because you can find out so much information.
LinkedIn is one of those social media that, like, it's up there with Facebook and TikTok too.
Yeah. Where you can find out so much about an individual. You can find out where he went to high school, you can find out where he went to college, you can find out all his previous job experience. You know, that's pretty big for social engineering. You can definitely construct an identity.
Now, can you make your LinkedIn account private?
I don't know.
You know what they should do on LinkedIn?
What?
They should have a link sharing ability.
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial to LinkedIn, because that way you can make everything private, but with that link sharing, you can go and, you know, say like, hey, you know, this is my LinkedIn if you want to go and look at it. But, you know, the other thing about LinkedIn is, you know, it can't really be private because you're getting job offers and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those speaking, I don't know, as someone who's unemployed right now, and who's someone who's, you know, had 2 active job searches in the last 12 months, LinkedIn's not a great place to look for jobs.
Yeah, I keep hearing mixed reviews. People are like, oh yeah, I got my job on LinkedIn. Other people go like, well, I got my job on Indeed. And then, you know, other people are like, oh yeah, well, I got my job off of Craigslist.
Well, I'm sure that many people who are like in the tech industry probably get their jobs on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Like anything where that's kind of readily available, maybe marketing too. But like, I think kind of more like, I don't know the terminology or how to classify it, but like the other kinds of occupations, like trying to be anything but what I said. You're going on Indeed, you're going on Craigslist, you're going on, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor jobs, things like that. But LinkedIn has always been useless to me. So I think a link sharing thing, I mean, obviously I said just a second ago that one of the things that they do get into, besides like bank statements and stuff, like the more secure stuff. One of them is job applications.
Yeah.
So that would kind of defeat the purpose of our link sharing idea for LinkedIn.
Also, one thing about
make it drastically less like dangerous of a social media account to be on.
Yeah.
But you were going to say something.
Also, people, they basically share like everything. For example, I was basically had to send in my transcripts for a job I was applying for. Unofficial, didn't need to be official. And, I'm looking at my transcripts and I'm like, technically my date of birth does not need to be on there. Nor does my my student ID number, because that's another thing you can do.
Yes.
And then I don't know, some transcripts have like the last 4 digits of your social security on there for some reason.
Interesting thing is higher education is another one of those industries that the hackers are severely targeting.
Yeah.
To get information, because you talk about the social engineering that you're talking about, just being able to get readily available information. School, like you're just reading about what's on an unofficial transcript. That's very important. And I don't know, man. It's just it's like nowhere is safe. It seems like it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'd be interested to know that if the United States was just as good as China has been at this whole thing, or better, would we what would be different about us talking about this right now? Would we be talking about something like this if it was the United States doing it? Would we know as much about it?
We probably wouldn't know as much about it because if the United States was doing it, it usually gets swept under a rug.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a other state that's doing it, that's not usually part of NATO.
Mm-hmm.
Not including Turkey, because Turkey, Turkey. Not the best country in the world.
No.
Yeah, they were only part of NATO due to their positioning in Europe and stuff like that, where it's like if you wanted to go and fight against the USSR, Turkey is one of those places you gotta have.
Yeah.
Gotta have on your side. That's the only reason why they joined NATO.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Crap, where was I going with this? Yeah, if it's like one of those countries where it's like you're not really an ally, you're like a neutral or an enemy, we're gonna hear about it. People are gonna talk about it. So yeah, I don't think we'd be getting this amount of information if we were the ones doing everything.
And I guess to the more important point, do you think that the ethics and the morals behind wanting to do this would be higher with with the roles being reversed, or would they be about the same? And I ask that because of now the United States partakes in a lot of human rights violations itself. The ICE detention camps, the border is probably the main one, but nobody violates human rights as much as China. Not saying the Americans are the good guys and the Chinese are the bad guys. Again,
we're just talking about lesser the two evils guys.
Well, that's what we're trying to say, is we're not trying to pin this as a battle between good and evil. Yeah. Knowing that both has their fair share of problems, do you think that ethically and morally speaking, the United States would have superiority if the roles were reversed? Would it be less, would we condemn global surveillance as much if the United States were taking the lead on that rather than China?
I don't think we would be condemning global surveillance if the United States was leading.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's like, we don't want that one person to go like, well, hey, look at what you're doing. you're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
also China has more of an incentive to do it because they're actually benefiting from it. If we go if we go and check out to see what China's doing, we're obviously checking out to go and see like, oh hey, look, they stole this report from Canada. Pretty nice report. We can make a couple medications off of that, patent it. Make money.
Mm-hmm.
But Canada would probably call you out, and yeah.
Yeah, there's I think anytime you get into these kind of situations between countries, there's a whole part of the iceberg that we don't even see.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of those questions that's really interesting, because I think it gets brought up a lot when people bring up condemnations of China. People will be like, "Well, is America any better?" And I say, I don't think there's any problem asking that question. But I think to assess the two nations and to say that they're on the same page is a severe miscalculation.
Yeah.
What China does to the Uyghurs, what they do to the Tibetans, and what they do to other ethnic minorities is unforgivable. The crime and the cyber crime that they partake in is unforgivable. They violate human rights like kids eat candy, and they are always towing the line of conflict in the Pacific. America's got a lot of problems. America's not a good guy. But I think it's just important to maybe not come to a conclusion, but to just keep that in mind.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if China has an original idea, or if they just, copy it off someone else.
Yeah, they probably do.
Yeah, it's like, you remember the little flip phone that Samsung was coming out with? It's like it's a touch screen, but you can kind of
it's like
fold it.
Yeah.
And then China stole their intellectual property, reverse engineer it, and then you have the Huawei phone. Huawei. How do you pronounce it? Huawei. Hua? Is that it's called?
HUA?
No, it's that phone company.
Oh, I don't
China,
know.
That tech company. Yeah, whatever it's called. Yeah, they basically took that information, made their own, and now you have at least it's competitive, but they stole the information.
Right, and I think one of the things that's important is to clarify what intellectual property means. I think you did a decent job of that. Patents, trademarks, things like that, and trade secrets.
Yeah, it's like imagine I go and make a video game, and China goes like, oh hey, we can make that video game. They copy it, bit by bit, byte by byte.
Ha 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 ha.
Well, I mean, bits like 8 bits is 1 byte.
I know. I see. I don't know the specifics, but I know you're trying to you're making a pun.
Yeah. Yeah. Bit by bit. Mind you, when you make a program on a computer, companies usually go and you never see the source code. It's always the computer generated code. It's the executable file that companies sell you. And it's very difficult to reverse engineer that executable file. It's like almost impossible. I'm sure sometime in the future it'll be possible. With open source software, you get the code and everything. But with these companies, they just sell you the executable file, and you can look at that executable file. You can play around with it, and You can go and say, I know what that guy did, and you can basically reverse engineer it, and it's basically the same thing. Of course, you can do some espionage and actually take the source code from that company, and then you have the source code, and then you just change a couple things, and it's like, oh look, which does happen. Corporate espionage.
Well, it's something people should get used to hearing about, should get used to talking about.
Yeah, it's funny. I've known this shit's been going on for a while now, and every single year it just gets more and more apparent that this corporate espionage done by China it's going to keep happening. And the question is, what's going to happen? Is America going to go like, we got to defend American businesses? I'm starting World War III with China.
Or China could do something first. China could do something like invade Taiwan or take military action against them.
You ever play Fallout?
No, I never did.
Yeah, I gave you New Vegas.
I started that, I think, one night, but then I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. Basically, there was a big, huge nuclear war between America and China. And, the thing is, I could see that happening.
Yeah, that's kind of scary that was a game that came out how long ago, and that seems like that kind of what we're racing towards, it feels like.
Fallout came out like 10 plus years ago. Maybe like 15 years ago. I don't know, the first Fallout game. But yeah, it's like interesting because, China and the US were the ones that blew each other up. Not Russia, not
North Korea,
not some Middle Eastern country.
China. No. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking about frickin' what is it, Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Fucking
what is it? Someone's gonna nuke you and you blow up a fucking nuke or something like that. You stop the
in
nuke.
Call of Duty. Well, there's like in Modern Warfare, it's like that first mission, isn't it? Like they invade that country, and then the guy sets off a nuke in his own city, in his capital city, and he kills like a bunch of. Isn't that what happens in Call of Duty 4?
I don't know. I keep getting it confused with Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah,
I know like nukes were like.
There was a nuke in that one too, like where they set off a nuke in space and it fucked up all the satellites and like.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so long ago and it's so out of the realm of the real world. I don't know, but it is interesting that it seems like the plot of a video game is manifesting itself.
Yeah.
In global geopolitical discourse and whatever. I don't know, man.
Isn't that what video games are about? A reflection of humanity?
Does life imitate art, or does art imitate life?
We don't know. We don't know.